morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
Excellent. Are you ready to explore some art this morning?
I am. I'm excited.
Outstanding. So this is what we're going to be working on.
Oh, well, that's pretty.
You like it?
Yeah. Do you think I can actually do this?
Of course you can. because what we're going to be exploring today is process.
Okay.
And process is the means through which artists take you into their way of seeing. Okay, so we've got this project broken down into 5 different steps, and I've already prepped the board for you with metallic paint. Okay, so it's this painting, the finished product is going to have luminous qualities.
It does look shiny.
Yeah, so it'll feel like everything is backlit. You know, and so we're depicting a sunset with a tree in the foreground and a reflection in a body of water, like a pond or something, and it has a very impressionistic feel.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really more about what it makes you feel than what you actually see, and there's sort of a lot more going on visually.
Very kind of ethereal.
Yeah. And there's more going on visually than you would think would result from just 5 steps. So I'll show you how process can kind of get you to, a nuanced and complex picture through very simple steps. Okay, so let's start by saturating and so what I'll do is I'll just demo one full step. Okay, and then turn it over to you.
Okay.
So the first step, we're going to be putting in the sky. And we'll also be putting in the reflection of the sky. I guess I should put this where everybody can see it. Reflection of the sky in the body of water. That doesn't really appear on this one. Here we go. So this has, and obviously this doesn't look like a sky necessarily because it's just step 1 of 5, right? So we're going to start here and then progress to the next step, which is putting in the dark values of the trees. Okay, and then we're going to put in well, I'll just use the finished work to show step 3. We put the branches in and some detail work with watercolor pencil.
Oh, cool.
Okay, and then step 4 is putting in the high value, the reflective value, which is another metallic paint on the trees. And then step 5 is doing the same thing in the foreground. So,
sounds good.
Make
to me.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. So we'll use this as sort of a model of the feel we're going for in this guy. Okay, so the way we get the sort of the colors blending together is we saturate the surface with glaze, and this gives us a medium.
Can I do that too?
Well, you know what? I'll just do the whole step,
Okay.
and then you can kind of, because the thing is that this has a fairly short working time. Okay, so we just saturate the whole thing, and then we put in. Okay, I've got 3 values for the clouds. Okay, and 1 value for the blue in the sky. Okay, so we're going to begin by blocking in. Okay, this sponge needs a little moisture in it. We're going to begin by blocking in some of the blue with a sponge. Okay, so we sort of dab and drag as necessary. Because if we just dab, I'll show you on the table, it'll just give us a sort of, stipply broken up bits, and we want more chunky bits, okay? And so we kind of, and we also want to leave some exposed silver, because that's just going to give finished work, more visual variety, more interest. And again, this isn't a totally literal depiction of the scene. You know, it's meant to be more impressionistic. And so whatever we're doing on the top half, we'll want to echo on the bottom half. And actually, it won't be exactly half. We'll want to have the sky take up approximately 3/5
Okay.
of the real estate of the surface. Okay. Okay, and then we want to get some moisture in this tool as well. Now, this is a lot of fun. So we want to charge this little bell sponge with paint around the rim. And then we will be doing some really expressionistic rolling of the edge. And depending how you, the angle at which you hold the tool, you can have fat shapes or skinny shapes. Okay. And so we want to have a variety. And just think of, like, if you can remember any sunsets you've seen, you know, that maybe you were inspired to take a photo of over a body of water or over the lake, just any place you've been where you've remembered a sunset and it's stuck in your mind. Just think of the rhythm of the clouds. Sometimes they have really an interesting angular quality, like fingers cutting across the sky. Okay, so try to imagine that as you're applying these colors. Okay, so we've got the mid value, and then we instate the high value. Now, as clouds, sometimes the way they reflect light is very interesting and complex, and it's not always totally predictable. So again, we don't have to be all that literal about where we place the highlights, but typically the clouds will be lighter and brighter around the edges. Okay, now we've got enough material in there, and everything's looking, you know, you can see all the tool works, right? So what we want to do is sort of break that up a bit. And so we're going to tamp it down and then blend it, okay? So I'm just using soft tissue paper to remove some extra material, okay? And it also adds a bit of variety. Okay, and then we use a very soft brush. And as we're blending, we don't want to create tool marks with the blending tool. The idea is to take the blending or take the tool marks out. So we just very delicately drag the very tips of the bristles very gently across the surface. And we'll want to take off the excess material as we go. Okay, so here we go. And just as in using the bell sponge, we can create a certain visual rhythm in the way we use our brush strokes. Okay, and I still have a bit too much material on. So if everything is running together too much and the colors are losing definition, then we've got too much material and we need to take some off. And so I'm using very short strokes in order not to leave a trail of brush marks. So you'll see some tool marks, but we want them to feel intentional. So I'm using sort of a shallow crescent shape as I go. And we can practice making all these different tool marks on a practice board. We don't have to like make our permanent work right from the beginning. We'll do some practice first. Okay. And remember, art is all about your way of seeing the world. And so as you're looking at the piece you're working on, invest that sort of energy in the work that you're doing. Experience the piece like you experience the world. Okay? So if you see something that doesn't agree with you, go ahead and change it up. You know, we can take material out with the paper. We could take material out with the sponge. We could add more material. Okay? Or we could just blend it out. And for this particular step, I'm getting pretty comfortable with where this is headed. I don't want to knock things down too far, and I also need to be cognizant of the fact that we have several steps going on top of this one. So I'm actually quite comfortable with where this one's at, and I'm going to stop. I want to resolve some of these strokes. There we go. Smooth this out a bit. There. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop right there. So, how did that seem?
Good. Yeah. I'm ready.
All right.
Yeah.
So, let's go ahead and start on this, and just consider this your practice board. Okay, this doesn't have to be, none of this has to be perfect. Okay, so here's the material, and you just want to put on enough to kind of have a generous amount over the entire surface.
Is that about right?
There you go. I think that's about right. There you go.
Is that good?
Looks good to me.
Okay.
Okay. So I started with the mid value, which is this one right here.
Do I pour it in here?
Yep. And okay, here's the sponge
And then
for
this
the
one
blue.
too?
Yeah, and the blue. There you go.
Okay.
Okay, so you want to start with the blue, and remember how I was dabbing and dragging to create sort of chunks of color.
I don't know if this is how you did it.
Remember, this is a practice one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's working out.
Okay. I'm happy with that. I
Okay.
think. Is that good?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I will give you just an observation, which okay, so when you started putting the paint on the surface, I noticed that you went into a perfect tic-tac-toe grid pattern. and so I'm that is something, maybe that's a visual tendency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's reflective of perhaps the way you experience the world and see the world. And so you can use that to your advantage, you know? that could be a very interesting stylistic choice, taking organic subject matter and kind of inserting a grid pattern or making it fit into a type of grid pattern. So it's just you know, it was interesting to me, so I thought I would mention that.
I wouldn't have known that. Okay, so the next one is.
So the next one is the. Just going to clean this off a bit. Doesn't have to be pristine by any means. Okay, so the next one is the mid value. Now, remember, yes. So.
And I load it up.
You load it up and kind of, you want to put it at a shallow angle, about 30 degrees. That's good. And then take off. You can just take off the excess, like on the table. There you go. And as you are putting it
like that,
onto the surface, you can get a fatter shape by putting it on the side, and get a thinner shape by putting it more on the edge. And think about clouds, or perhaps clouds adhering to a grid pattern, if that's your thing.
Apparently so.
And so remember, we'll go 2/3 of the way down, right? And then we'll echo what we're seeing on the bottom third. We're echoing what we're seeing on the top 2/3 on the bottom third.
Okay, so I covered it.
Okay, so now, are you happy with the path?
I know it'll probably change when I dab it.
And so here's the tissue paper, and when we're removing pattern like this, sometimes if you're working reductively, removing material from the surface, sometimes you'll want to create texture. Sometimes you'll want to sort of lay the texture down. In this case, we want to sort of lay the texture down and make that more uniform. So we want to have a fairly smooth pad.
So I just kind of go straight down?
Just kind of go straight down, and what I would do, yeah, that's working. There you go. Okay, and hang on a sec. Okay. As you go, you'll want to probably remove material from your material remover. So yeah, you can just dab it on the table. And you don't want to mash it down too much necessarily.
Maybe I do.
Maybe you do, exactly. You might want to, what you can do though is you can start blending to see how it resolves.
Do I blend with this?
No, you blend with your soft sable brush.
Okay.
And so this is where you go very softly, and you want to hold it straight up and down, because you want to use as much of the surface of the brush as lightly as possible. And it's time for this brush to be washed. And you'll get a smoother blend if you kind of do it long ways, or I guess fat ways, as opposed to long ways. And you'll want to remove material frequently. So it could be blend, dab, dab. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't get the highs in.
Oh, I think maybe we could still do that, right?
Yeah, you can still do that. So there's the bell sponge for the highs. And then you'll want to get off. Yeah, there you go.
It's kind of being random, I guess.
And then echoing the top 2/3 on the bottom third.
I suppose I can't mess this up, huh? It's practice.
It is practice. That's right. Unless you just love it.
Do I dab it again, like with the texture, or?
Yes, and or you could use the sponge. Ooh. And as you're doing it, remember to exercise your way of seeing. And when you see something interesting, stop there and blend it to see how it resolves. That's nice. Very nice. Yeah. Interesting. So
I guess I like mine really blended.
well, doing it blending with the brush long ways gives it a more brush marky feel, kind of like a Van Gogh painting. You can really see the marks, which is visually interesting.
Everybody has their own style. Huh?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
About that.
Okay, I'm gonna check that. All right. So, are you ready to start the real one, or shall I go to the next step?
I'm ready.
You ready to move on to the next step? Or
Yes.
Okay. Thought I should
Sorry.
clarify. Okay. So I'm going to add a bit of orange to the clouds. It's right here. And so, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll just put that out of the line of fire for now. And this, we're going wet on dry. So my surface now has dried while you were doing yours. And it, looks like I'm missing, oh, there it is. Yeah, I need my tiny bell sponge for this. Now, for this step, I'm going to be adding some water to the material. It'll be about 1:1. 1 part material, pre-mixed material, and 1 part water. I'll just stir it up with my little sponge on a stick. Okay. Now I'm not going to want nearly that much material, so there we go. And as you can see, I'm doing it on the cardboard below the surface. I've just got paper mounted to cardboard, but I've got extra cardboard in order so that we could move it around without messing up the painting. Okay. And so I'm just kind of doing a little testing here to see how much material I want to be working with. And I want to be working I'm working with very wet material. Okay, there's water in it, but I'm working fairly dry on the surface. So I'm not putting a lot of material on there. Okay, because this is a very strong color in relation to what we have going on. And I just want it to be an accent. So I don't want it to dominate the painting. I want it to complement what's already going on. And so I'm going to just put some on there in select locations and then dab it off a little bit. And so compositionally, I'm thinking about sunsets I've seen where the intense colors are mostly on the bottom side of the clouds. So it's reflected light. Okay. And when you go when you wash your blending brush, after you've washed it and you go to use it again, you just want to make sure that it's nice and dry, because a wet brush can create havoc in a wet surface if it's wet with glaze. It can lift up a lot of work which you've already got in there. Okay. And when we're working on a dry surface,
Maybe I can just use yours.
sure.
since
Yeah,
it's
you can.
already-
Yeah, you can get started. Absolutely. When you're working with a wait, let's sorry, we need to check to make sure yours is dry enough. Yep, good to go. And when you're working with you're putting a wet material over a dry surface, you can blend it however you like. You can use your finger to smudge it around. You can remove material with a rag or the paper. And you can also add other cloud values the same way if you like.
What do you mean by cloud values?
So these materials which you used on the first step, you could add some of those if you would like to reinforce some of the work that you that is already there.
Okay.
If you start to feel like the red is more present than you'd like, or that for whatever reason the clouds aren't quite as present and defined as you'd like, you could, at this step, you could add more of those values.
Okay. I think I'll just leave this because I'm really eager to see the end result. But I don't want to. I guess I'm not. I'm kind of a step-by-step person. So like to go back a step might not be. I just have to go step by step.
Well, that's good. That's it works for most people. So that's why we're doing a stepped process.
Okay.
It is always instructive to see what results from the processing of the steps. So
Okay.
okay, so now I'm going to bring out the next board, which illustrates step. Well, this will be step 2. Okay, so we've got the clouds in, we've got the reflections of the clouds in, and now we're going to put in the tree shadow values. Okay, so let's refer to the finished piece.
Okay.
And so looking deep into the piece, so you see the metallic content sort of jumping out from the surface, right? Because it's grabbing and reflecting the light.
Mm-hmm.
And below that, what really supports that and gives that body and anchors it to the composition are the darks. And you can see how they there are chunky bits and there are more broken up bits where you might imagine that as you're looking at a tree in the distance, it seems really dense. The leaves, the foliage seems very, very dense in the center of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
But away from the trunk, away from the center, it starts, the leaves, you can see the individual shapes of the leaves. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's what we're trying to convey in the way that we approach this next step. Okay, so we're going to apply the material with a sponge. and just think about where you would like these tree shapes to be. Okay. And so, and at this step, we can also establish the horizon line. So if it's 2/3 of the way down, it'll be about here, if that feels right to you. But I mean, you could put it wherever you like, actually, because the composition, as it currently stands, is pretty. There's a pretty regular rhythm going on. So conceivably, you could break this up at several different locations, and the bottom portion would read as a reflection of the top portion. But the point is that at this step, that's where we'll define where the horizon actually is.
Okay.
So on mine, it'll be right here. Okay. And so you'll think about where the trees are on the horizon. You can do one in the center. You could do, a stand of trees to one side, however you'd like to do it. You do skinny trees.
Show me yours first.
Sure. Okay. So with the trees, we're starting with
maybe I can do also at the same time.
Okay, there you go. There's going to be a mid value, and then we're going to have a darker value. And the mid value will go on first, and then we'll reinforce that with the darker value. And it's going to be a dab and drag technique, just like we did the blue in the sky. Okay, so I'm going to break up these initial shapes a little bit and create some chunkiness by going over them with a moist sponge that doesn't have the material. So I just rotate the sponge. Okay, I have the material, apply the material.
You want to start?
Sure. I'm going to go ahead and kind of put a hill. Let's go all the way to the opposite side of the surface.
No, I'm good with that.
Okay. And then we can take the dark, and we just need just a little bit of this material. And you'll want to dab off some of the excess on the table. And then the dabs are going to be very light for this, and just hit the most dense masses that you already have in your piece. So you won't have this really at the very edges. Okay. There. And like your earth mass, you probably want to instate some darks there. Is this a nice wet sponge?
Is
I mean, let me trade you sponges, and then you can sort of disperse some of these materials. There you go. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I think I was just gonna get to that after I plop down. I guess that's kind of a different process. Okay.
All right, coming right along. So the next step, we'll be working with these watercolor pencils. Okay, so we're going to take a 5-minute break so that the surface can dry, because we need a relatively dry surface in order to proceed with the next step. So great work so far. I'm excited with where this is going.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go grab a coffee.
Okay.